Hello, 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 and welcome to our preview of the Community Shield final between Arsenal and Liverpool. Just a little bit of an update, little bit of an announcement. You're probably looking at this if you're watching us via the Chronicles of a Gooner YouTube channel at the minute and thinking, what's this rebranding about? If you're listening to us via the audio, then you've already found We're the North Bank, which is the Arsenal podcast brought to you by 90 Min. I'm sure many of you have seen myself and my guest on the 90-minute channel. We talk all things Arsenal. We talk all things Premier League, and we have some great banter with all the guys. But we wanted to bring this to your attention. The We're the North Bank Arsenal podcast brought to you by 90 Min is live. It's available on all major podcast platforms, and for the time being, for a few weeks, we're going to be running those streams through here as well, so that if you are a Chronicles of a Gooner listener, you can see what it's all about. If you fancy jumping over, subscribing to We're the North Bank, actually not if you fancy it, do it. Head over to We're the North Bank. It's available on all major podcast stores, and you can find myself, Dan Potts, and Mike Stavrou going forward, talking all things Arsenal. So, as I said, that's the reason for the different branding on the screen tonight. This is the We're the North Bank show for 90-minute football, brought to you by myself. And tonight, I am joined by Dan Potts. Dan, how you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm good, thanks, Harry, man. It's good to see you, mate. Always a pleasure to jump on here with you. And exciting times for this. Let's hope that everyone enjoys this content.
Absolutely. I'm sure they will. Guys, if you haven't already, please do give Dan a follow as well on social media. You can find him at DanArsenal87. And Dan is rapidly growing in the Arsenal podcast world. So if you haven't given him a follow, please do so. And let's get down to business. Of course, this weekend sees Arsenal take Liverpool on in the Community Shield final at Wembley. And I know this is a bit of a silly point, but I was actually typing sort of the description out to this show. And initially I put Liverpool versus Arsenal just out of respect, because I feel like the Premier League champions should have that respect rather than the FA Cup winners. But when I'm looking around everywhere else at their previews, even some of the most reputable websites have gone with Arsenal first. Is it alphabetical order, Dan, or do you agree with me that it actually should be Liverpool first, given they're the bloody Premier League champions?
Well, mate, we're ahead of them in the league at the moment, so maybe that's why we're first, mate. Alphabetical order. Now that Bournemouth have been relegated, it's done us a favour, because we definitely are top all the time now. Now, I'm with you, man. Liverpool deserve the respect. And I know it sounds silly, this as an Arsenal fan, feeling sorry for Liverpool. I never thought I'd ever say that, but I kind of do feel a bit sorry for their fans that they've won the league and they couldn't celebrate it at Anfield or at open top bus parade. It just would kill me, that would absolutely destroy me. So if Arsenal don't win the league next season, then perhaps, which I don't think they will, let's be honest, perhaps it's fair that Liverpool get the right to actually celebrate it again with their fans. But great side, great manager, and a very tough game this weekend, without a doubt.
Very tough indeed. And it's very tough to preview this game, actually, because, you know, Liverpool have had a couple of friendlies now. They played their second one against Red Bull Salzburg a couple of nights ago. For us, though, we've only played that one game against MK Dons. It's very early on for us. It's early for everyone still, but we're obviously a game behind Liverpool at this moment in time. We saw some of the first teamers involved in that MK Dons game. And when we first heard that game was being played, there were a lot of people saying that it was going to be a selection of the under-23s and some fringe players, etc. But we saw Granit Xhaka play. I know he's your best mate. We saw Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang play. We saw a number of first teamers be involved in that. And first of all, were you surprised by that?
Yes or no? Very surprised that they started. I expected them to be in action, don't get me wrong. But I think what Mikel Arteta has done is he says, listen, boys, there's no time to rest. We've had our break of 3 months during quarantine. And what we need to do now is get ready, because we're playing again this weekend. And I think for me, the actual performance against MK Dons, it's very hard to kind of judge, isn't it, against the opposition and who plays and how serious they take it. Was it just to kind of freshen up the legs? Was it kind of getting back into it? But the performances I saw from some some of the individuals did surprise me and pleasantly surprise me. I didn't expect Mohamed Elneny to be into the side. I thought we were going to be trying to get rid of him, but it may be that they were trying to play a couple of people so that they could then be showboating for teams to come in for them. Who knows? I was surprised to see Granit Xhaka due to the amount of games he played. I mean, he played every single minute of Project Restart pretty much.
But he's the most important player in the team, and he does. So
Jesus, don't go there, man. I tell you what, if it is him and Elneny, then that is going to be worrying, isn't it? Because these were Arsene Wenger players, and we're still playing them in our midfield. It's crazy. Anyway, one positive was William Saliba, though, Harry, because I looked at his highlights at the performance of the previous season, and I thought he was commanding, comfortable on the ball, extremely good with his passing, good in the air. Didn't realise he was 6'4" until I saw him. His stats, he looks really, really decent for his first performance. And you look against Kate Downs and you think great opposition, but you can only, go on what you see of the lad. And I thought he was extremely good. I hear Martinez and Bellerin are quarantined. I guess they've come back from holiday and haven't been allowed to play. But I hear that the weekend it's going to be Leno and Cedric because they haven't got Bellerin and Martinez available. I don't know if you heard that. Is that right?
It's interesting that because Mikel Arteta has not said that, has he, in his press conference today? He gave a press conference at the time of recording a couple of hours ago. The comments, 2-3 hours ago by now, the comments started surfacing from what he'd said, and he didn't mention anything of that. So, it is a rumor that's been going around. You're right to mention that. I don't know for sure if that is the case. But as I said, it's all these kind of different things that make this such a really difficult game to preview at the moment. I expect Aubameyang to feature, given that he featured the other day. Will Lacazette be back? I don't know. And Nketiah featured. Will Nicolas Pepe be available? Who knows? It's just so up in the air at the moment. But while I mention Aubameyang, let's talk about the Aubameyang contract situation, because this is obviously... it's something that people are saying is done. The rumblings that are sort of coming out of the football club suggest that if it's not done, it's very close to being done. But are you starting to get a little bit nervous about the length of time that it's taken Arsenal to announce this?
I don't know if there's any need for us to be nervous, mate, because this is the Arsenal way. This is what we do. We take so long compared to, let's take Chelsea, for example. Now, take nothing away from the fact that they've got hundreds of millions of pounds to spend. That's not my point. My point is they don't mess around. They get things done. They just go and say, I want that player. Go and get it done. And Chelsea go and get it done. With us, we've been told for the last 6 weeks that Gabriel's done. For the last 6 months, Aubameyang signed his contract. No announcement. Nothing happens. So I'm not sure that I'm so nervous because Arteta is pretty positive and confident that it's going to get done. And when it does get done, it gives us at least something to be excited about. I'm not sure what the hold up is, what we're waiting for. I believe that it's going to get done and it will get done soon. And let's be honest, we've only signed Willian, and the Gabriel deal hopefully will get done. It's still not enough to get us into the top 4, in my opinion. But with Aubameyang, we have got much more chance of getting closer to that than without Aubameyang, in my opinion. So it has to get done, Harry, 100%.
Yeah, I agree. It needs to be done. I think it is done, if I'm being honest. I've got to be honest. I do think it is done. I think it's a case of crossing the I's, dotting the T's. I think that you've also got to take into account that given the sort of quarantine rules that are in place at the moment, it's making things a little bit more difficult for Arsenal in a number of ways. I think we will have an announcement probably within the next 7 days or so regarding Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's future. I really, really do. So I'm not overly concerned about that. Let's talk about the midfield, because you touched on it a little bit earlier on. We're very light in that area at the moment. We're hearing that Dani Ceballos is, at the moment, as things stand, is not returning to Arsenal. It looks as though we may have been priced out of the race for Thomas Partey. Lucas Torreira has been heavily linked with a move back to Italy. And then Guendouzi, we don't really know how he's going to fare now. We'll come on to talk about Arteta's comments about him this evening, but that does leave us very, very short, doesn't it? And I know you're not a big fan of Granit Xhaka as it is, but you must be even more worried as a result that we're going to be left with potentially him and maybe Mohamed Elneny.
Man, this has always been our problem for ages. And I say ages, I'm talking years. I'm talking back to Arsene Wenger days, because we've had no defensive midfielder, in my opinion, since Gilberto Silva left that was any good. We've had the Coquelins, we've had the Songs, we've had the Arteta himself. It was never really a defensive midfielder, but asked to do a job there. We have had no defensive midfielder that I've had confidence in since Gilberto Silva and Patrick Vieira, right? And we're still talking about it now. And Vieira's in his 50s nearly. So I'm sitting there thinking, how is it got to this stage that we have still not got a defensive midfielder? And it's not just a defensive midfielder, it's midfielder box to box, it's creative midfielder, it's the transition of our team. It is so bad and unbalanced under Unai Emery. It was scary, and it's still not really been addressed. Now, Dani Ceballos and Xhaka were the best that we had, in my opinion, this season. They were the best two that just worked together. It kind of somehow clicked. But I've got no confidence in if Ceballos stayed that moving forward, that's going to get us into the top four. We still need somebody in there that is going to move the ball. And I think what we've got is lack of goals. We've got lack of defensive stability. We've got lack of moving transition. I don't really understand what any of these players do. And what is even more worrying, Harry, is we take the mick out of, or I take the mick out of Granit Xhaka and Elneny. We might be losing more, because Torreira looks like potentially a swap deal. Guendouzi may not be in Arteta's plans, we'll come on to. Ozil certainly isn't in Arteta's plans. Torreira in a swap deal. Dani Ceballos may come. Elneny. It's like so uncertain there. The only one who looks like staying, unfortunately for me, is Granit Xhaka, and I don't believe him to be the one for the future of this club. So midfield worries me more than defence, because defenders, yeah, we've got some terrible defenders, don't get me wrong, but we've also got some okay ones and some promising ones in now Gabriel, if he comes, William Saliba, Pablo Mari. The jury's still out for me. We haven't seen enough of him. David Luiz is okay in a back three, but the rest of them are clowns. So I'm looking at it thinking we need to get rid of some players now, and the outgoings.
This is the thing, Dan, right? Like some of these players, and I know we're going to disagree on this because we always disagree, but it's good fun. It's great. Are these players clowns, or have we not historically set up in a way that allows us to get the best out of them? Because you look at certain performances, particularly since Mikel Arteta's come in, and you think, my God, am I watching the same player that I was watching 6 months ago? And in many cases, these players have improved dramatically. Granit Xhaka, for me, when he's in a system that works, he's a very, very useful player. I know you disagree, but the same with somebody like David Luiz. You play him in a back three and you're looking at a completely different footballer. Do they have faults? Of course they do. You know, they're not top world-class players. I totally accept that. But I feel a little bit at the moment like with Arsenal, we're in a situation where we can't just overhaul the entire squad overnight. It's going to take 2, 3, maybe even 4 windows to weed out the crap. So we have to make do with some of these players, and we have to try and get the maximum out of them. The Ceballos and Xhaka combination is one that I think works pretty well, but it only works well because of the system that Mikel Arteta has set up, because there are 3 centre-halves around them. But what I would say about those two is they get a lot of pelters from Arsenal fans for the lack of creativity that we seem to be producing from the middle of the park. I feel like that is a consequence of the way we are trying to play. Mikel Arteta has almost decided to say to the fullbacks, you can have the freedom to go forward, but it means that I'm taking it away from Xhaka and Ceballos. So the question I would put to you in regards to them is, do they lack creativity, or are they being restricted in terms of when and how often they're allowed to get forward and support the attack because of the roles that they're being asked to do?
Granit Xhaka and David Luiz have given themselves a chance under this manager because I believe they have worked in this system. I can't make a case for the others. The reason I can't make a case for Kolasinac is because he's been a clown and he passes the ball to Son, which Harry Winks would have been proud of, and basically loses us the game. So Kolasinac,
hold on, Harry Winks only plays sideways passes. I think Kolasinac is one more backwards, isn't it?
Okay, Dele Alli then. I'll go for Dele Alli. But yeah, do you know what I'm saying? This guy is had too many chances. He's not fitted into any system, in my opinion. Kolasinac is done. Mustafi, whether you play a 3 at the back, 4 at the back, he still made Harry Kane look like Lewandowski when we played him at bloody White Hart Lane. He had a terrible game, terrible second half. Mustafi needs to go. And also, by the way, when we weren't playing 3 at the back, he basically gets David Luiz sent off at Stamford Bridge for a shocking pass back under this manager in Mikel Arteta. He has had enough chances under Arteta, Emery and Wenger, and he needs to be gone. Yes, I believe he is a clown. When it comes to Holding and Chambers, I just don't think they're quite good enough for Arsenal. I know that may sound harsh, but people talk about them being the Adams and Keown. I just don't see that in either of them. I think if we're going to get good money for Holding, it's anywhere between 10 and 15 million, we should take it. And likewise with Callum Chambers. When it comes to Granit Xhaka and Dani Ceballos in the middle, the balance just works. And I think it's because they both have more discipline than the other players. I like Lucas Torreira. I actually think in his suited position, he's a little anchor in midfield and a little ball terrier. But for whatever reason, it hasn't quite worked out for him at Arsenal. I think it did under Emery to start with, and Unai Emery totally destroyed the player because I thought he was tactically clueless as a manager. So I think when it comes to Lucas Torreira, he was kind of playing him as an Eze Hazard role or Kevin De Bruyne role and believed that he was the next best thing there, but it wasn't going to happen. So for me, that's the reason why Arteta is stuck with Xhaka and Ceballos, because they kind of complement each other. But where we go from here without Ceballos is really, really worrying. And I think going into that game, we may get bossed in midfield just for the fact that we haven't got enough players there. I like Joe Willock as a youngster, but I don't quite know if he's ready. I like Smith Rowe. Again, not quite sure if he's ready.
They're not deep flying midfielders,
exactly,
are they?
Exactly. That's the problem. So you're probably right, mate. We're going to probably go in there with Xhaka and Elneny. And that to me is not good enough, mate. I know you like them both, but nah, man. It ain't for me.
I wouldn't say I'm a fan of Elneny, but let's just pause it for a second there. We'll come back to the Elneny discussion in a second. Just a quick reminder to those of you who are watching us live on the Chronicles of a Gooner YouTube channel at the moment. You're wondering why you can see We're the North Bank and the different branding. Well, we are bringing you We're the North Bank, which is the 90-minute Arsenal podcast. We've been bringing it to you for a while in audio format, and we thought we'd get a few of you guys over here involved as well. So if you haven't already, please do us a huge favor. Head over to whatever podcast store it is that you use, search We're the North Bank, subscribe and leave us a review. Myself, Dan and Mike Stavrou moving forward will be bringing you content weekly on the Arsenal. We'll be talking about a variety of subjects. So if you haven't already, please give us a subscribe over there as well. And for the next few weeks, at least, we're going to be bringing you this show on this channel as well. But we want to get as many of you over to the audio platform as we possibly can. So please do head over there and do that at your earliest convenience. Right, let's go back to Mohamed Elneny, because I can't have that, Dan. You said I'm a fan of him. I'm not a bloody fan of his. Jesus. Look, Mohamed Elneny is one of those players. He's a bit like Ron Seal. He does
you're going to stick up for him now.
Yeah,
you're going to stick up for him now. Oh, we go.
I am. I'm going to stick up for him because the criticism he gets is bloody unfair. And it's unfair because he doesn't swan around a football pitch as if he is something special. Mohamed Elneny knows his limitations. He knows that he is a midfield player who can do the simple things, the basics, puts in a shift, works hard, covers ground. But other than that, he is very, very limited. He is very, very limited. I think everybody would agree with that. Mohamed Elneny is in a strange situation because obviously he spent the entirety of last season out on loan. He's come back. And his future is up in the air. And that must be really difficult for a player to deal with. You come back into a football club. You don't know where you stand. Are you part of the plans? Is it clear that you're going to be moving out on loan again or that you're going to be moving on permanently? Now, had we not been in the situation that we're in now in terms of our midfield, had we tied down Dani Ceballos, had we maybe had the funds to go and get Thomas Partey, then there is no doubt in my mind that Mohamed Elneny would be moving on this summer. But at the moment, he's in a difficult position because he doesn't know what's going to happen. And I don't think Arsenal know what's going to happen. And Mikel Arteta, speaking in his press conference on Thursday, said that he's going to have to wait and see. He said that he played with Mohamed Elneny, which I completely forgot, by the way. So he knows him really well. But, you know, I wouldn't rule out the possibility of Mohamed Elneny staying at Arsenal, at least as a squad player. And if he was to stay as a squad player, would you be dead against that, given what we currently have at our disposal?
I think it worries me really that we're talking at the start of the season about the Diawaras, the Soumares, the Sangares, the Decores, the Parties, and now we're going to be left with Elneny. That's what I'm nervous about, mate, because we're not moving forward. We're sticking to what we know. With Elneny, he is not a shocking footballer, in my opinion. But what attributes does he have to bring to the table? I'm not so sure that I think that he has anything box to box. I'm not so sure that he has any creativity. I'm not so sure that he really has defensive stability. I just think he's one of these bit part players that will just keep the ball and pass it sideways. And that's what we've already seen and has not worked at Arsenal. So if you're talking about him being a squad player and playing in League Cup games, of course, I'm not going to be against it. I don't really care about that. And if he's someone you have to bring on because you need to keep hold of the ball, then cool. But really moving forward, we need to be getting rid of players like that, in my opinion. I don't really see any difference in keeping somebody like Joe Willock to somebody like Mohamed Elneny. And if we're really going to be talking about those players that we're hoping to see and we get stuck with Elneny, trust me, mate, this fan base will kick off big time.
Yeah, it will. It will. And it doesn't take much, does it, for this fan base? Most of the time, it's easy to trigger. Sometimes too easy, in my opinion, but that's another story for another day. But let's, just before we move on and look a little bit more ahead to Saturday's game, the Dani Ceballos situation is a really interesting one. And a lot of people are probably sitting there wondering what is going on with that. So to my understanding, the situation is this at present. Real Madrid are very much happy to let Dani Ceballos go. However, they want it to be a permanent deal. They want to sell Dani Ceballos this summer. The reason I believe they've called him back is because they're hoping that somebody else will come along and say, here's the 27 million euro that they're asking for, and we'll take him off your hands. The reality is that at this moment in time, there has been no other interest. The other whispers are with regards to his former club, Real Betis. But of course, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a huge impact on football in Spain, and particularly with the club's finances. And it looks as though they're not going to be able to cough up that summer money. Now, I know what Arsenal are trying to do here. Arsenal are trying to get him back on a loan with an obligation or a clause to buy him at the end of the season, because I believe that Arsenal do want Dani Ceballos, but what they're trying to do is delay that payment as long as possible and put it off for a season in the hope that we'll be in a better financial position and maybe we'll be in the Champions League, which will be a massive boost to us in terms of our pockets. So Arsenal are trying to be smart. But Dan, is there a worry that Arsenal are trying to be too bloody smart here and we might end up seeing this blow up in our faces?
Of course there is, man. It's worrying that we cannot afford to release the clause of Thomas Partey at 45 million and we are not able to put in a bid of 25 million for Ceballos, which we're hearing that we do want the player. So that's not a lot of money if you believe that we've spent 27 million on Saliba, 25 million on Tierney, 72 million on Pepe last season. But we can't afford to spend not even that much money on two players that would walk into our side, first team that is, and potentially get us top four football. So I don't really understand what the delay and the hold up is here. If we're going to go and get Gabriel, Ceballos and Partey, we're not talking about 80 or 90 million a piece. We're talking about that combined for three players. So why is the hold up? And I've been told that Arsenal was skint. And if that is the case, then fair one. We're going to have to try and negotiate and sell before we buy. But why are we skint? Because there's not many other teams that are skint at the moment. And if we look at the finances, I'm scratching my head wondering why we are skint, because we're supposedly one of the biggest clubs in the world. So where is our money going?
I think and I know we've probably discussed this before, but I do think that the fact that we have missed out on Champions League for so long now is why we're skint, because we've been paying Champions League wages for all of these years. And I've said it on previous shows, but when Arsenal fell out of the top four, I don't think anybody at the club envisaged that it would be this long before we got back into it. And as a result, we've just seen our fucking cash reserves just going down and down and down and down and down. And it's a real problem. It's a real issue. And that's why we can't get rid of some of this dead wood now, because they're on Champions League wages. They don't want to go anywhere. And it's making our lives increasingly difficult when you're trying to persuade someone like Socrates, for example. Yes, you're not going to play here, mate, but you're going to have to go somewhere else, but your wages are going to take a massive hit. Who in their right mind is going to respond well to being told that you got to take less money? No
This
one.
is why I blame. This is why I blame the previous regime, mate. Gazidis and Wenger messed this up massively by putting all of these bang average players on stupid wages. Kolasinac's on 125k a week. Mkhitaryan's on 180. You look at it like what you got. Mustafi on 90. This is madness wages. The wages of some of our other players do not compare, and this is what I do not understand about how we are trying to now get rid of these players. We are going to have to wait until 2021, mate. The summer of 2021, I've said it for ages, is when I'm going to be looking at this team under Arteta, because we are going to then see what is going to be happening at that situation. We're going to have gone with the deadwood. We're going to have bye-bye to Ozil, bye-bye to Kolasinac, see you later, Mustafi, if they don't already go. And we can actually look at what we've got in regards to our youth. For now, we'll be a year on, and we can look at the players that want to be at this club under this regime, under Arteta, because he cannot get rid of these players. And this is what's happening with Elneny's and Kolasinacs and Mustafis. We may have to keep them because they're on wages, and Arteta's going to have to be in that sticky situation where he's like, I'm going to have to keep them on the sweet side because I may have to use them for another season. Okay, Ozil is a different kettle of fish. That guy is done. He's at the club. You know, he's going to have another season in the reserves, just going fishing or whatever the hell he wants to do.
What a waste.
Because he's not going to. Well, it's madness. £18 million a year, you know, again, previous regime. So I'm looking at what happens from now, and the players that are needing to be shifted from this club. There's still 7 or 8. We're not going to get rid of 7 or 8 in a season, in a transfer window, sorry. But I think we kind of need to now, because if we want to move forward, then we're going to have to give it time. And I'd rather give it time with a load of players coming in than kind of have those faces that just don't play and just cause problems around the training ground, just kicking about doing nothing. I'd rather have a season to gel under a manager I have a lot of respect for and think he's a great head coach, trying to get 7 or 8 gelled into the side, than have 7 or 8 people that are just kicking around that don't actually want to be there. So a lot of people say it's hard to gel, and at Chelsea are going to find it hard. We'll see, won't we? We'll see how good a manager Frank Lampard is. But I think that if we were to have 7 or 8 come in and 7 or 8 go out and be replaced, I have faith in Arteta to get it right, and I'd rather see that happen. I really would.
I do think, though, that we're maybe panicking a little bit prematurely with regards to moving players out. When you're talking about people like Socrates, like maybe Mustafi, like Kolasinac, like, you know, all these players that we want to see shifted out of their football club. If you're a buyer, why would you go and knock on Arsenal's door in the early stages of the window? You know Arsenal are desperate to get rid of these players. So you would wait till the end, and then you would try your luck with a ridiculously low bid below their market value in order to try and tempt Arsenal into doing that. So I do think that we will move out a load of these players. I think they won't be moved out before the closure of the window, which is in October, though. And the problem with that is if we are relying on those outgoings to help us bring more players in, then we're stuck, and we're going to have to just accept that this window isn't going to be as dramatic as we'd like, and we're going to have to just try and build for the future. And, you know, if we can get 2 or 3 in and it does enhance us, great. But I'm just conscious because I feel like we spent a lot of time moaning about the transfer window, which as Arsenal fans is natural, isn't it? It's like second nature to us. But let's look a little bit ahead to the game on Saturday. We've already established that predicting the starting 11s is going to be really, really difficult. So we're not even going to try and do that. But what would it mean to Arsenal if they were able to get another one over Liverpool at Wembley at the weekend, in your opinion?
This is all about confidence going into the season. And if you can beat the current champions, that's a great start. There's no better start than that, if I'm honest with you. So we've got the opportunity to have one of the best starts going into this game. I think the difference between Arsenal and Liverpool, with Liverpool have had more time. And I don't mean just by the extra pre-season game. They've been having a pre-season since Christmas pretty much, because they won the league so easily. So I think that when you look at the pre-seasons and how well people are prepared, Liverpool are better prepared than us. There's rumours that a few people are quarantined. We'll have to see what happens there. And there's no point predicting the 11. But I think going into this game, Arteta has proved on the back end of the last season that we can beat the big boys. And whether it's Liverpool, City, Chelsea, United, whoever, I have confidence now going into those games. And I couldn't say that under Arsene Wenger or Unai Emery, because I just felt that there was a different kind of level of mentality. Going into this now, we beat Sheffield United, which was a big game away in the Cup. Wolves, big game in the league away. obviously Chelsea and City at the Wembley, and in the Emirates, Liverpool. So we're going into this game obviously against Liverpool again, who, by the way, will definitely be wanting to win this game, like I felt they were against the Emirates. You know, a lot of people said, oh, they were on holiday and stuff, but they wanted to get that 100 points. So I think it's going to be an interesting fixture, but I just have a feeling that it's going to be some youngsters that may turn up and surprise, and whether that's Eddie Nketiah, Saka or Willock, or whether it's Brewster or Williams or Elliott from Liverpool, I think you're going to see a mould of young players as well, because I think they're going to need to rotate. So let's hope that Eddie Nketiah and Saka are the ones on the score sheet and not Brewster.
Yeah, agreed. And Brewster's in fine form actually for Liverpool at the moment. Got another brace the other day in their friendly against Red Bull Salzburg. And I know that because I was working on it, not because I spend my spare time watching Liverpool in friendlies. I'm not that sad. Let's say a big hello to everyone who's currently tuned into the podcast live. Big shout out to every single one of you at the moment. And as I said, if you are watching us via YouTube at the moment, make sure you head over to We're the North Bank. You can find it on all major podcast stores. Subscribe, leave us a review. It is really, really important. And a big shout out to Worldwide Gooner, who says he'd like to see Willian and Saliba feature, and he's made a very kind donation in the super chat. Thank you so much, mate. Really, really appreciate that. Right. I agree with you, Dan, about that it's all about confidence. I feel like it shouldn't mean anything, but it could mean so much. This is where it's mentally challenging, isn't it? Because if we do get beat, and if we do get beat comfortably, it's about having the ability to switch off from what's just happened, to get over it, to move on quickly, and to not let it impact us, as the Premier League season is just around the corner. But equally, if we do get a positive result, or at least give a good account of ourselves, we've got to channel that confidence, haven't we? And make use of it, and really build on it and drive forward, because we are on an upward trajectory under Mikel Arteta. I know we didn't finish the season in terms of the league as we'd have liked. But having said that, we can clearly see that there has been some progress. So it's important to stay. I'm not going to say you don't want to be overly positive, because as Arsenal fans, we've been burnt when that's been the case before. But you want to stay positive to a degree, but also you've got to stay realistic, and you've got to keep your feet on the ground. In terms of a prediction, Dan, give us your prediction for this one. I want you guys in the live chat to give us your predictions as well, and we'll read out some of those before we wrap up this episode. But Dan, if you had to guess, if you were a betting man, how do you see this one going at the weekend?
I think Liverpool are going to nick it. I think, unfortunately, as much as I'd love to be optimistic, I think they're going to boss our midfield, and I feel like we're going to have to defend very, very well in this game, like we always do as an Arsenal team. But I'm going to go for 2-1 Liverpool. I don't think it's going to be a thrashing, and I don't think it's going to be a kind of game where we're going to be like all over them. So I think it's going to be a 2-1 Liverpool victory, unfortunately.
I'm going to go with an Arsenal victory. I'm feeling confident. If I'm not mistaken, the Community Shield goes straight to penalties, doesn't it? So I'm going to go for an Arsenal penalties win. There you go. Arsenal win on penalties. Let's see what some of you guys are saying. James, he says Arsenal 2, Liverpool 1. Sam Newcomb says 1-1 penalties, but he's gone with Liverpool to win that. Whoops. Clicking all the wrong buttons here. Davo says Arsenal will beat Liverpool even if we don't prepare well. I'm assuming no, you're an Arsenal fan, right? I think. Arsenal Granny, that's a great screen name, says 2-2. Malik says 2-1 in favour of Arsenal. Omar says 2-1 Liverpool. Jamie says Liverpool 2-1. Our midfield is weak and they'll run rings around our midfield. So a real mixture of predictions there. So let's see how it goes on Saturday. And of course, we're going to be back with another episode of We're the North Bank next week. And we'll be, of course, talking about that game, but other things as well. So please tune in for that. As I said, if you haven't subscribed, I know I'm going on about it, but this is the first one that we're broadcasting live on my YouTube channel as well. So we want to drive as many people over as we possibly can. Do subscribe to We're the North Bank on whatever platform it is that you listen to your podcasts from. Show us some support via the audio platforms too. It is very, very much appreciated. Right, that brings us to the end of this latest episode. My thanks to Dan Potts. Dan, thank you so much, mate. And I'm sure we'll speak between now and the next episode. Well, we definitely will, but I'm sure we'll speak before the final as well, and we'll see how we're feeling after that one. If you haven't already on the live stream, smash the like button as well, and we'll be back very, very soon with more. Until then, take care. Ciao.